Are you tired of overpaying for your gold, silver, and platinum bullion coins and bars? Then visit sdbullion.com today. SD Bullion was recently named the 177th fastest growing company in the United States by Inc. magazine. This is because they offer the absolute lowest prices in the industry and follow up with over-the-top customer service. So what are you waiting for? Go to sdbullion.com today. Enjoy more than 60,000 happy investors that save money on every precious metals purchase they make.
Hey everyone, this is Elijah Johnson with SilverDoctors.com, and with us today, new guest, Tone Vays. He was formerly on Wall Street. He was a risk analyst, and now he's an expert trader and also an expert technical analyst, and he studies Bitcoin and reports a lot about Bitcoin. Tone, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hey, thanks, Elijah. Glad to be on the show.
All right. Now, the first topic I'd like to discuss is obviously Bitcoin. Now, throughout the past year, I was just looking at the chart, and we've seen about Bitcoin go from around 1,000 to 19,000 back to where it is now, almost 10,000. It's getting back up there. What is your perspective on the current state of the Bitcoin market?
Yeah, the current state of the Bitcoin market is a little bit tricky at the moment. Even though we have gone up just in the last few weeks from just over $6,000, and now we're pushing $9,500 per Bitcoin as we're doing this interview. My outlook for the rest of the year is actually still bearish. I think that the downward trend from 20,000, I don't see it as being over yet. Until I see Bitcoin stabilize above 12,000 and also provide a very clear higher low than 6,500, I'm going to assume that the bearish trend is still with us. And even though I will always recommend buying and holding Bitcoin for those short-term traders and investors, I prefer to be timing short trades right now than long trades. However, I am a holder of Bitcoin, and the things that I trade are still traditional markets, but I do enjoy trying to analyze Bitcoin for price activity.
So it seems like you're saying for the long term, Bitcoin is still a good investment. Why do you think so?
Well, because Bitcoin solved this major computer science problem that some had thought to be unsolvable. It's known as the double spend problem, or in game theory, it's known as the Byzantine generals problem. By solving this problem, the Bitcoin blockchain is able to send data peer-to-peer without a middleman and without the ability to reverse that transaction. In layman's terms, for the first time in human history, you can own something that is unconfiscatable because you are in sole possession of it. And I think that is such a unique property that people still have not fully understood it. I see the Bitcoin blockchain as innovative as the internet itself by providing this bearer digital asset. It so happens that the only true use case of it right now is that the digital data itself is valuable for being scarce and censorship resistant and unconfiscatable. So it's being used as money, is being used as a medium of exchange, is being used as a store of value, as long as the underlying fundamentals remain stable. We will see if that evolves into additional use cases. But right now, Bitcoin as a store of value, Bitcoin as a medium of exchange are unmatched, mostly because of that property, that it's the only one that's unconfiscatable and the only one that's censorship resistant. It's not fast. It's fast enough. It's not anonymous. It's anonymous-ish, sometimes enough. It's not always cheap. Sometimes those transactions get expensive. But when you need to get something done without any worries, that's what you would use.
Now, why do you think that Bitcoin is better than any other cryptocurrency? I mean, it is a strong case to be made that, cryptocurrencies could play a big role in our financial system in the future, but why Bitcoin over any other?
There are several reasons for that. So to me, the biggest reason is just like a country's GDP, same thing when it comes to technology. Your technology is only as good as the smartest people that are developing that technology to make sure it doesn't have bugs, to make sure it doesn't get hacked. And from what we see, or from what I see in the crypto space, is that we have hundreds and hundreds of incredibly smart developers coding on Bitcoin and trying to make it the most useful, the most secure, the most stable blockchain there is. And the best anybody can say about any other blockchain is they have one, maybe two people, and not a dozen, some of the most smartest computer scientists in the world, plus hundreds of others that are doing code review and making sure that nothing malicious gets in, no bugs make it to production grade code. That's the biggest reason, pretty much why even like a country like Japan with very little natural resources remains in the top 3 countries by GDP, individual countries. Same thing versus any other country that has a bunch of natural resources. So because how hard the people work and how smart people are. That's my personal biggest reason. There's another reason. Not because it was first, but almost because it was first. There are so many people, and myself included, that believe that Bitcoin will survive, and it is the most decentralized, and we trust it the most with pretty much our life savings in crypto. If another crypto overtakes Bitcoin and the biggest amount of money would be lost by those early holders and early believers, why in the world, not only us, but why in the world would anyone else trust any other blockchain if it's so easy for your savings to disappear and move to another asset? What's going to happen after that? It's not as simple as switching social networks or browsers or anything like that. And even text messengers. Everyone thinks that their text messenger is the best, but how do you get everybody to switch? But in this case, if your whole life savings get wiped out and the most number of people will lose the most amount of money, why on earth would you trust any other crypto with a store of value? Now, another crypto can very well be a medium of exchange, but it's going to be more like a hot potato. I'm going to convert my dollars or my euros into this crypto. I'm going to use it as fast as possible, and I'm going to go back to government currency. Like, nobody would just trust it as a safe to hold their value. And I think that's really, really important.
Now, with respect to, I guess, Bitcoin's role in the future, I mean, some have argued that it consumes a lot of energy to keep a Bitcoin running. What is your perspective about that? Do you think there's an energy problem there?
I do not. Again, there's multiple reasons for this. And in fact, even if I go back to the prior question real quick, in that I think there is only room for one blockchain in the future, and that ties into this question. It doesn't make sense to burn energy to support multiple blockchains. If all this energy is being burned and it's spread out across 3 blockchains, let's say they're all equal in their energy burning, then you have 3 blockchains, each one 1/3 as secure versus all of that energy being on a single blockchain. And you know what? You have to burn that energy in order to secure the Bitcoin. Everything kind of piggybacks off of another. Look, if I always said the best way to eliminate Bitcoin is for the government to remove all money laundering laws and treat money as a person's property. And then Bitcoin will not have as much of a use case, but it'll still have a use case as a more stable store of value, a more stable currency with predictable future supply. So there's still some value there. But going back to the point of energy, I'm sorry, that's what it has to be. I mean, wars burn significantly more energy, and that doesn't seem to stop. If you want something secure, if you want a censorship-resistant value transfer, this is pretty much the only solution until our governments start treating our money as like our property, like your arm. Like they can't take away your arm, and they can't take away your money. As long as government has the ability to confiscate your bank account, freeze your money, freeze your bank account, censor your transactions because they have a moral issue with how you spend your money, as long as keeping taxes high and wasting your money that people don't want to pay taxes anymore. As long as all of these things exist, I believe that there's no way you're going to stop the burning of electricity in order to secure Bitcoin. And the good news is I believe that because the amount of electricity being burned to secure Bitcoin only needs to go up, we will see the greatest innovation in renewable energy because now a lot of the private sector is motivated to find the cheapest way to generate the most amount of energy to mine Bitcoin, which could go up in value to pretty much infinity. So now there is actual motivation as to a financial benefit to having perfect solar energy or perfect geothermal energy, or God knows what someone is going to come up with when they know they'll have an advantage on mining that last Bitcoin.
Now, some have been concerned about, government regulating Bitcoin. What is your perspective on government regulation of Bitcoin? Can it be successful? I mean, can government stop it?
No. Bitcoin is pretty much unregulatable. Government success on regulating Bitcoin will be the same as government success on, regulating drugs or regulating prostitution. It's easy to regulate prostitution when it's legal and it's easy, but when it's illegal, it's still going to go on. Same thing with drug use. I'm sorry, that's just the way it is. So Bitcoin falls into that similar bucket where it's just unregulatable and unenforceable as a technology. Just like the internet itself as well. How do you regulate the internet? You can regulate some things on the internet, but there are plenty of easy ways to get around that as well. As far as the Chinese government is concerned, the biggest thing that they did was they banned all ICOs, and I actually agree with that. Regulating Bitcoin is actually decentralized, so regulating Bitcoin is going to be almost impossible, or actually impossible. Sure, you can arrest people for using it in a certain way, like cash, same thing, but regulating ICOs is possible because an ICO, or most alternatives to Bitcoin, there's a company there, there's a leader there, there's a CEO there, and those things are regulatable. Those things can be controlled. Like if your cryptocurrency has a leader and a CEO, it's not decentralized. So the government can easily come and regulate you out of existence. But when it comes to Bitcoin, it's not going to happen.
And what is your perspective on the best way to invest in cryptocurrencies? Besides Bitcoin, are there other cryptocurrencies? I mean, it seems like you're saying Bitcoin is probably the only one that you would invest in.
Correct. Bitcoin is the only one that I currently invest in, and I'm expecting that to stay for the foreseeable future. There is a very small subset of alternatives to Bitcoin that I would not consider scam coins, and it's a very small subset. But just because, and I can even name them, but I don't want to give people the wrong idea that I'm recommending them as something that you should hold. But to me, if your alternative to Bitcoin was created in the same way as Bitcoin, where the creator of it did not have any kind of an advantage on getting more of those coins than anyone else, that's a fair launched Bitcoin. If the current development of that alternative is fully decentralized or as decentralized as it could be, that also helps. But 99% of every other crypto is not like that. They were all created by one guy in order for him to get rich by printing his own money, and mostly for himself. That's 99% of all of these initiatives, and they're not going to go anywhere. So the only investment grade asset I would recommend in all of crypto space is Bitcoin, the original Bitcoin.
A lot of my viewers view gold and silver really as the only real money. Do you think Bitcoin in the future will serve that role as well?
I hope it will, because even though gold and silver have been money for a long time, we need to define exactly what money is. I know some people have defined it in the past, and it always comes down to money has to be a store of value and a medium of exchange. And throughout the centuries, gold has failed to do that each and every time. Sure, gold is a decent store of value, but there's one major problem there. Gold does not increase in value with the advancements in technology. And that is why the stock market, the S&P 500, and before the S&P 500, if you can do the equivalent, has always grossly outperformed gold as an actual store of value. People always say, an ounce of gold bought you a suit at the turn of the 20th century, and it buys you a suit today. While that is true, but if you sold that ounce of gold, in 1913, when the Federal Reserve was created, and you put it in a Dow Jones, you may be able to buy every suit in the world right now and not just one, because the stock market adjusts for inflation as well, but it also adjusts for the improvements of technology. Another problem with gold is, technology has gotten ahead of it, where gold's best property throughout the centuries has always been cross-border value transfer. When things get hot in your country, you get a bunch of gold coins and you get on a horse and you get out. That's very difficult to do today because of metal detectors. So gold as being transportable to hide your hard-earned wealth is no longer a good property for gold, and Bitcoin has completely taken that over. And gold has always failed as a great medium of exchange because it's hard to divide it. There was an attempt to turn gold into a medium of exchange with something like e-gold, but what happened? It was centralized, the government showed up, it took the underlying gold, and the e-gold initiative fell apart. And your economy also needs credit. And it's a little difficult to do credit on gold. Now, Bitcoin is going to have the same problem. I don't know where we would be today if we were still on the gold standard. Look, I'm not happy with government's inflation and the printing of money as much as the next guy. But can we honestly say that we would be in this digital age talking over the internet today if we were still on a gold standard? Who knows if the kind of technology we're using today could have been developed on something like the gold standard, and it didn't involve, the rehypothecation of money. We just don't know. We don't know what could have been. Now, another reason why, I don't want to make this a long-winded answer, but another reason why gold becomes a little bit problematic, and again, this may also hinder Bitcoin. I thought that gold would do great during economic crisis, and what I saw in 2008, as I lost my job at Bear Stearns, was that gold fell 33% as the stock market fell 50%. And that's when I realized that if your economic crisis is serious, no one is going to buy gold. They're going to sell whatever gold they have, whether it's jewelry, whether it's anything, to feed their families. So gold doesn't act as a great store of value when the economy really, really turns and people need to sell anything they have in order to buy food. And I do hope that as Bitcoin continues to scale with Lightning, it could actually be, for the first time in history, a good store of value that increases in value with the advancements in technology. Like, imagine if you owned pieces of the internet and those pieces got more and more valuable as the internet became more and more useful. That's what Bitcoin can be. And as Lightning comes in as a second layer scaling solution, Bitcoin might be one of the best, fastest, and secure payment methods that is almost infinitely divisible into little tiny fractions. And now it becomes a very good medium of exchange as well. Is that possible? I certainly believe in it, and I do think we can get there.
All right. Well, Tone, thank you so much for joining us today. Before we let you go, did you want to share with the viewers any last thoughts you had and where they can find you online?
Sure. I recommend people do as much research on Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies as they can before they decide to invest in anything in the space. I would not advise investing any more in Bitcoin than the amount you're willing to lose. It's probably the most speculative asset out there. But if you're a traditional investor, it will greatly diversify your portfolio because in a way it's uncorrelated to anything else you would be holding. And as far as finding me, I have my own YouTube channel. You can just Google me on YouTube as Tone Vays. We cover the news in the crypto space every morning. And then I usually have another show at least once every couple of days called Trading Bitcoin, where I talk specifically about technical analysis and trading. I travel the world, speak at Bitcoin and blockchain events. So look out for me speaking in a city near you. My website is libertylifetrail.com, soon to be tonevays.com. Where I have a good guide on learning how to trade. And I'm very popular on Twitter, again, just as Tone Vays.
All right. Thank you so much for your time, Tone.
Thank you.